So I know I'm actually late, guys. Thank you for this, for coming in. Welcome back. I know they're like, Jonathan, do you work anymore? No, I haven't had a broadcast. We haven't had a broadcast in about 3 weeks. I hope you had a good Thanksgiving. I hope everybody is ready to kill out 2020 because you've been asking for it for about 6 months now. So it's almost over. We were having too much fun backstage. So I appreciate you guys having patience. We definitely appreciate over 1,300 of you guys here in the Money Talks group asking questions, engaging. You guys definitely been engaging a lot more. Use it as a resource, whatever you can do to get yourself better. If I don't know, I'll get it for you. I'm not going to try to pull any punches with you about that. Over 1,000 people on YouTube. Yeah, we've been silently working on both platforms. So I appreciate if you're watching on YouTube or if you're watching Money Talk, make sure you go over to YouTube, subscribe to the channel, and do me a favor. Actually watch the ads. That helps. You know what I mean? The revenue for the channel, so we can keep things coming out, these conversations for you. Like it if you haven't already. So I'm not gonna let y'all talk to me. You know, I like to get right into these things. So first, before I get into the cusp of things that you're doing, we have Winland and his wife Marjorie, beautiful people, beautiful couple. You guys paid off some debt. You've been working a little hard. So how much debt did you pay off? How long did it take? What kind of debt was it?
Awesome. And thank you for having us, Jonathan. Social media does some wonders, doesn't it?
Hey, I'm telling you, IG, boy. IG finds favor.
So thank you for connecting with us. My proper way of saying my name is Winland.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Marjorie here, and last name is Diogiste. All right, so we're from the Caribbean. We're from Haiti. All right, so we are of Haitian descent. But in terms of the amount of debt that we paid off $35,014.85 to be exact.
And usually we just round up, so y'all really must have hated it. So.
Right? And then as far as how long it took us 14 months to pay that amount off. And the type of debt that it was credit card debt. I remember $6,000 of that is for the bar at our wedding. Yep. Anyways,
$6,000 for the bar at the wedding.
What I said.
Was it your wedding?
Open bar.
Oh, it was open bar.
Yeah. So hold up now. I'm talking about at our wedding. All right.
Oh, so okay. I'm about to say you paid for somebody else's open bar. I'm like, man, I should have called you. I got married a couple of years.
No, absolutely not. So credit card, and then we also had a car loan on there, and a number of little ones. It just tallied up, right? And when we were able to put everything together, because sometimes people just go throughout life and they're paying this bill, they're paying that bill, but they never really sit down to see what their monthly expenses are. Mm-hmm. And when we were able to do that and we realized that it was 35,000 plus, I was like, whoa, slow down. Because at this point we were already married for a year and a few months. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, oh my goodness, I asked this lady to be my wife and I'm here drowning.
You probably say, oh my goodness, this man done asked me to marry him.
that can't be it. So that's what I would say it was made up of. And invested in a business that did not work. And I was like, oh, Jesus. All right, well, dust ourselves off and try again. So that's why we ended up putting a plan together to get the debt knocked out, because I read something on social media. It's like having debt is trying to run forward fast pace while looking back.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Try that.
Yeah. No, I'm not gonna try it, but I definitely understand.
and when I read that, I was like, oh no. We gotta figure it out. So here we are now. But we love sharing exactly what we're able to do with other individuals as well. And we'll discuss a little bit later on. But yeah, so that's kind of like where we're at right now.
Cool. So what 14 months? So was that the most recent 14 months, or when did you pay it off?
Okay, so And so we started when we wrote everything down, all the credit cards, the interest percentage that we were getting charged. By the way, you can get that on your statement. Some people were asking, how do I know? How do I find out? It's on your
statement. Gotta tell you.
Exactly. Or you can just call. Or you can just call and find out. So when we put everything down, it was as a New Year's resolution. Mm-hmm. So last year, like February, and man, we want to attack it. If we can break it down by my next birthday, which is April. Okay. Right. So from February to the following April. Yeah. So I was like, man, if we could break it down, all we have to do is pay a certain amount each month, and we're gonna be okay. Right. So it was from February 2019 until April 2020. Okay, cool. So that's fairly recent. So you said you just got married. When did you get married?
October 2017.
2017. Okay, so you've been married for a little bit. So what was the thing that kind of made you sit down? That was like, hey, we need to kind of get this going.
Okay. So I'm always thinking about like, man, what are some of the things that we could be doing that's gonna put us ahead? Okay. Ahead. And when you get married, I don't know, sometimes something just happens where it's shit and you just start thinking differently. Yeah. You start exactly. You start trying to be more proactive. So by the time, a kid comes in the picture, you want to have all these things aligned. So I was like, man, let's look at our whole financial picture, because in doing a lot of readings, there was three things that couples are always disagreeing on and going back and forth on. Mm-hmm. And it's your faith, right? Yeah. Family, and then your finance. Yeah. I was like, all right. So faith-wise, I know we're working on it. Mm-hmm. Family, I think we're good. And then finance.
Yeah, intimacy too.
We're not good. Intimacy with finance and with family as well. Mm-hmm. So that's when I was like, man. And then of course going to church and having conversations with other couples and things of that nature. Started listening to some podcasts that were talking about money, and I was like, His and Her Money Show, Dave Ramsey and all that. And I was like, you know what? Let's really sit down and take a look at our picture, so that way we can see where we're at. Mm-hmm. And doing some investments in the earlier years in terms of real estate. And I was like, man, if we want to get more, mm-hmm. we need to get rid of this debt, because when it comes to debt to income ratio and all that fun stuff, I was like, let's put great emphasis on this. Mm-hmm. Now I would like for you to explain kind of like how was that for you early on, and how did you feel about when I proposed this idea? Let's go out of debt. Let's do it together.
And keep in mind, it's usually one person always knows. So whether you're the man in the marriage or the woman, like you come in with the idea and like, hey, I'm gonna get it. But you also know when you're about to present this idea, like, I don't know how this is gonna go. But when you marry, it's one of those things like you have to do it. So you can't just dance around. So it's how long are you gonna dance around this before you do it? So hey, just have an awkward conversation. Let us snap, do whatever. You know what I mean? So how was it for you?
At first I was like, why? No, like that was literally my first reaction. I was like, no, why we got this right now? We're good. I mean, luckily we didn't have any student loans, by the grace of God. I know I went to school. I got my bachelor's and master's for free, all paid for. He didn't have any big education loans. So I was like, we made it out good. Like we don't got no big debt. Like I've heard of 200,000, 300,000. We just got 35. I was like, why now? Yeah. And so that was me. And then, as he sat me down, what he started to do was just send me podcasts. And he's like, read this, look at this. And I'm like, okay, I see where he's going. Just kind of like tuning it in. And then
planting seeds.
Right. And I was like, all right, let's just tackle it. Let's get it out the way. That way, he put a goal to it. He said, let's do it by my birthday. So I was like, okay, let's do that. Let's tackle it. And that's what clicked for me was after, seeing different stories. Like he said, everyone had their own way of doing it. Mm-hmm. And I was like, what? Let's put our heads together, because I'm not a confrontational person. So I'm like, hey, if you want to do something, I may not be with it. All right, cool. Let's find a solution and let's rock it out. So that was me.
No, that's very interesting, because I mean, for me, like one of the things I love about my wife is the accountability. And the accountability, when I say that, is when I had to bring something to her, like it has to be pretty vetted out. I can't bring her no idea and be like, yeah, let's do this. Well, why? Like, I gotta have bullet points. She would love a PowerPoint if possible, and she would love to be able to review 2 or 3 days prior and a calendar invite set. So it's really important. Like, when you're looking at this, you guys mentioned something. I didn't want to speed past it too quick, but you guys wrote down the budget. But the fact is, a lot of people, you're only seeing a fraction of your picture. So in your scenario, you wrote down your budget, but you also wrote down like all your debt, all your investment. You have to look at the whole picture. And when you're starting, you have to look at the whole picture, because if you're looking at your month, you're going to probably think, oh, it's not that bad. But if you take 4 or 5 steps back and you start looking at, okay, I don't have a house, or I don't have investments, or I don't have any savings, I'm 45 or I'm 33 or whatever, I'm making 100 grand, or maybe I'm making 60 grand, whatever the case may be, you will find, especially when you add that debt into the picture, you're not doing as good as you think you are. And when you try to do it off survival, what happens is, like you said, or you might say this before, you try to playing with debt is like trying to run forward while looking back. Well, that's what debt does. Something is always going to come up, and because you have debt overpowering your financial situation, we're talking about mental, we're just talking about the brass tacks of the reality. But because you have so much of it, when that something comes up, your time is up. So it's very important that you have an awareness of the whole scenario. I'm so glad you mentioned that, and I'm glad that you talked about the whole piece of, hey, you had to bring this to your wife, because that's not fun. Like, the person who has to mention it, that's not fun for us. Like, if I can send you a text like, hey man, go ahead and check this out, and you just get it right away. Yeah, let's write the button. That would be great. But they don't like it. You don't think like me. The other thing I think you kind of alluded to was you started thinking about your future, and you also, your wife started thinking about the things that you wanted to do. You have to have something you're running to. This doesn't work with you just, I'm just trying to say. No, we're all doing this. Like a few podcasts ago said, we did this to have money. We ain't do this to not have no money. We were trying to do it. So if her thing is she want a new car, or maybe she want a bag budget or clothes budget, or she want to go to brunch a little bit more frequent, whatever the thing is, that's why you're doing this.
And then one of the things that I try to put great emphasis on is, I know we love to travel, and I'm like, imagine all the places. all the places we can go if we don't have to worry about sending 500 to Discover, sending 500 to MasterCard. All right. So now I'm trying to paint that picture for her, so that way she's like, all right. So, okay, we're going to pay this off, and then we can go do that stuff. Bam. So that worked out a lot. And again, listening to the different stories from different couples and realizing that, hey, some people, they go through this fight, for the first 6 months, 9 months by themselves. But her, I feel like we were able to get on the same page fairly quick.
He was very intentional about it. Like, we have a dry erase board in our room.
Oh wow!
And he laid it like
the lady.
You could not get past it. You would see it. You would wake up to it. You go to bed. You'd see it. So it was very intentional as far as seeing it. So it was like, okay, we also had a shared notepad, so he would update it on there. So it was on the phone too. So you get notified on the phone, and you see it on the board. So it was hard to get away from it. And then once you start achieving something, you're knocking it down. It becomes, like, okay, let's go, let's keep going. It becomes an adrenaline rush. So I think that was very, very, he was very intentional with putting it in my face so I can see it.
Before you go to bed, I just want you to know this is
exactly. If you have the idea to go buy something, look at that board.
Yeah, look, just think twice. No, it's so good, because I mean, we're big travel buffs too, and one of the things that I looked at was we had fun traveling, but part of traveling is you're living out a sort of a fantasy, and part of a fantasy, when you travel, you're supposed to do something or kind of live in a way that you don't necessarily live at home regularly. So maybe it's you're going to a nicer hotel with more hands-on service. Well, that costs. It's not that, does the cost make sense? Not every cost has to make sense when you're doing it for the enjoyment. Like
Mhm.
I like to tell people, yeah, I bought my wife Louis Vuitton bag. She likes Louis Vuitton bags. It's nothing wrong with I mean, it's something wrong with the product. But I'm saying we're not buying that. We're not buying that bag for a purse. We're not
Yes,
buying
yes,
it for the utility. Otherwise, we can go to Target, we can go to Burger,
correct,
we can go
correct,
anywhere for a purse. We're buying it because it's sort of a fashion symbol. Is you're not buying it for what its actual intended. You're buying the brand. You're buying
correct,
the quality that they're doing.
correct.
So it's really important that you understand when you're running towards this thing, you're doing this to open up more things, and some of the stuff that you're running to might not make financial sense. It's about having the ability to, like, I like to say, I like to buy stuff that doesn't make financial sense. Like not go crazy, but some of the when you get past, I'm just trying to make my needs. Everything else is a want. So none of it is really gonna make financial sense. You have
That's
to
true.
understand
That's
that.
true.
And then the second thing I wanted you guys just to kind of share your thoughts on, because I've been wrestling recently with, there's a lot of, like you said, podcasts and information there, so it's not hard to know, especially now. Hey, you got to get on a budget, you got to get out of debt, you got to do all that. But what's the thing that really made you believe before you paid that you could get it done?
That's a very good question. For me, I would say looking at, so at first it has to start up here, right?
Yeah.
And how do you get it up here? I think through those podcasts, like I keep going back to, because that literally in the gym, listening to podcasts, listening to people's stories, listening to this 22-year-old that became debt free, listening to this 30-year-old that was able to pay off 80,000 of student loan debt, and I'm just on the treadmill or whatever, and I'm just like, why can't that be us?
Right.
Like, why can't that be us? And again, as I kept listening to it, and I'm like, man, like, and hearing their stories, like, oh, they have 90,000, they have 120, they have 240. There was a young lady that had like 286 or something like that. I'm like, oh my goodness, if they could pay off 286, come on. Yeah. I think we should be able to pay off 35. So that's when we started believing and actually coming up with a plan. And literally every month, the notepad, like I literally would okay, how much is on your Chase card? How much is on your Discover card? And we literally would update it, subtract, bam, okay, 30,000. Bam, okay, 25,000. So now it became more of like an adrenaline. It's like, okay, we're getting closer, and updating the board in the room. So that way, because here's what that's going to do. Like, for example, let's say we have this thing where we want to go visit Africa. And I'm like, okay, a trip to Africa is going to be a nice
grand,
right?
That's a grand you was talking about with the
yeah. Right, it's going to be a pretty penny. So I'm like, you know, why not actually put ourselves in the situation where we can get out of debt, so that way, if we do want to make those type of trips, we can do that. And I would just have to say it was just and started, and one thing I'll say as well, started following those type of pages on Instagram as well, on Facebook. So now on your feed, oh, this person just paid off 40,000. This person just paid off 60,000. So for me, that motivated me. And then I would just like forward it to her. The couple, the wife is talking about how I believed, he didn't believe, he believed, I didn't believe. And I'm like, look.
And then he's very intentional too about posting our journey as well. Like our journey, and people be like, whoa, you guys are inspiring me. Right. So we started to be an inspiration to people around us as well. Right. So it's like, we can't let them down, we can't let ourselves down. And I think we're like the first in our family to be like debt free. So it's like, we're doing this for us, we're doing this for our last name. So it was more like that. I think that pressure too.
That outside pressure and also the inside pressure as well put together. Boom.
So that makes a great transition, because I know you keep saying, hey, it does start with the mind. You do have to have a vision, and you do have to get your spouse on the same page. And I think that's the thing that I think is one of the hardest things with money, especially if you're a couple, is to talk to your spouse about money, to create an environment where you're talking to fluidly with your spouse about money, and they're not judging you. One person ain't acting person's parent. It's just simply, hey, we're two adults. You need to know what's going on with me. Again, whether you have separate accounts, whether you have everything joint, that's your prerogative. I'm like, the other side should know what you got. So you shouldn't be sitting on $50,000-$60,000 and then they over there trying to eat peanut butter crackers or something.
Yeah.
They just think everything's going under. Like, no, they should know. Their name might not be there. And again, with the spouse, it's important that you talk and you walk down like, hey, oh, you got debt. Well, it's probably not good that we put certain things in our name. Don't just hammer out. I'm not saying you don't love them. It's just you might have to wait on some things because of where rules are. You can jam up your marriage very fast what if this person has a $150,000 IRS lien and then they didn't joined up with your account and you got 20, 30,000 that you're not used to none of this. And all of a sudden one morning you wake up, your account gets wiped because that person on the account. That can happen. So not to say your marriage should end over it, but I'm like, you could have avoided that whole situation just by having a conversation with it. The second thing is your spouse is like another job that you're not working. Like that's another person grinding it out. That's why I tell people, I personally think single people have it worse than married people, financially speaking, because I'm like, you got two people, and like you said, you got degrees. If you got two people with degrees and they're running in a relatively same direction, that can outpace easily than somebody that's just one person. They got to do everything themselves. So it's really think about it like you talk about efficiency. You can just double your efforts just by, hey, I'm gonna be uncomfortable for today, but once you get it out there, then it's just all right. It's or it's not as good. All right, let's move on.
Correct. And one of the things that I'll share as well is this saying: you can have the tough conversations today, so that way you can have an easier life tomorrow, or you can just have the easy conversations today and have a tougher life tomorrow. Yeah. So and we see it in our everyday and people that reach out to us, and we're trying to pour in the cup of other couples as well. And one of the things that I'm baffled by, like I sat down with this couple, and not saying it's one or the other, by the way. I sat down with this couple and they've been together for 15 years and they still have separate finances. I'm like, oh my goodness, I can't even imagine. Now, whatever works for them. But now,
if they sit down with you, it's probably not working.
Right. I'm like,
as well as they think.
I'm like, what? Separate accounts, 15 years? Yeah. But for me, come on, guys. In my opinion, two's better than one, right? And like you said, if you have two individuals who are working towards a common goal, I mean, this person's bringing in, let's say, 50,000. You're bringing in 50,000. You guys are at 100,000. Yeah. You know. So in those conversations, I think people need to be more proactive in having them early. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So that way, hey, this is where I'm at. This is where you're at. A lot of our conversations took place in premarital counseling. Right. So
even before that, when we were boyfriend and girlfriend, I mean, he had a $10,000 student loan that he wanted to pay off, and I said, "Here, pay for it." Literally dating.
That's when I knew.
You gotta marry them. Yeah, you need to marry that. You're owed that ring. Like she's doing that, so the ring comes back. Like that 10. That means you have more income now to no excuse.
Literally. So we always been on a financial. Also, we're always been having those conversations early on. Yeah. It was something that I was brought into, like to talk about your finances. You know, I had a budget when I was in college because I had financial aid coming back to me, reimbursement. So I was always budgeting in. So that was always a thing for me. But he kind of tightened the screws a little bit when we got together. Like, oh, you're not doing this, and you're not doing that. So it tightened the screws. But like you said, premarital counseling, we're having those tough conversations early before we get married. We're discussing all this prior to. We're discussing, how we want it. Yes, we may have a joint account, but we still have our separate accounts. But you're going to have the passwords. You're going to know. You're going to have access to these accounts. You're going to know what's going on. But at the same time, I think that prepped us premarital counseling because we did about 6 to 8 months of premarital counseling before we got married to really dive deep into that. And I think that was a really good thing that we did prior to marriage that really set us up for success. Talk about finances.
So, what was the hardest part of the 14 months? Because everything. Just like now, like we're 10 coming up on 10 months post pandemic that we've been running this pandemic. And if you would have asked somebody in those first 30 days, oh my goodness, the world is over. These walls are like people was climbing the walls. A lot of divorces happening. A lot of suicide rates are up. But there's a lot of things that this thing didn't do. And when you hear it, 14 months or it's now 10 months. Oh, I can hurt for 10 months or I can hurt for 14 months. But the fact is, those months are always different. So the hardest part, whether you're on a 14-month journey or 5-year journey, it's still hard. It's the same hard. But what would you say was the challenging part of that 14 months?
Gotcha. I think for me, because I would say I was spearheading, right? I was spearheading. I'm going like I remember one time I was don't do this, by the way. I was on the road and I was listening to a podcast and the person's like, yeah, I paid it off. I paid this, I paid that. And literally on the road, I have my phone in my hand and I'm like, paid. I was just making payments and I would text her, hey, just paid off this. Hey, just paid off that. She's like, wait, what? I thought you said
So you over here pressing buttons and all of a sudden she getting like 4 or 5 different confirmations in her email. What you doing?
So but 1 month.
Yeah, that was gonna be mine.
Oh man,
we paid off 10,000.
We threw 10,000 at the pot.
Wow.
And I think I was like, whew, that hurt. Because going back to some, because we own a few investment properties, but I remember the first property we purchased, I had to come up with 17,000.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, you just paid 10,000 towards debt. Like if you could have added an extra 17,000 and purchased it, you know what I mean? Yeah. So for me, I started thinking, I was like, I don't want to have this feeling. I don't want to have this feeling anymore. But I would probably say that's when it got real, where I was like, man, dumping in $10,000, like we were.
What did you get from it?
Yeah, and it's like,
and the fact is, you did get something from it, but what you got from it is gone.
Yeah.
Here's your money back. It was one of those, man. But I would probably say that was mine. Would you say the same?
That one hurt. I was like, we worked hard for that one. I was like, damn. God, the next day. All right. Let's keep going.
And then also one of the methods that we use too is not letting the funds sit.
Yeah.
All right.
Great. Yeah.
So it's like, boom, that thing hit the account. That thing hit the account. So we don't think about, let's go spend 3 nights there. Let's go do this. No.
Yeah.
Hit it. Let's go. Hit it. Let's go.
No,
that's not acquiring more.
No, that's how you do it. So you got that you put 10 grand there. He's like, man, that hurt. She's like, no, that did hurt. That's probably gonna stick with you. Oh, wow.
It will.
No, I mean, you can. When I paid off a credit card, something from I paid off something because I paid off everything when we did our wedding. The wedding, I think, is what got me. That I was just so astounded at how much was spent in a year. And I looked at it 2 ways. One, I was like, I didn't even know we made this type of money to spend what we spent for the wedding that fast. I didn't know that. And then second, I was like, well, if we spent this much for the wedding, well, by the first year, I should be able to recoup that much. And, I was like, I'll do a year. So it ended up being more. But no, when you do those things, especially with the credit card, I think that one's harder than anything else because likely whatever is in that credit card mix of debt, you don't even have no more. It's probably meals that you didn't already dissipated. It's probably good times that you can't even see. A car is a little bit better because you get a title. And so you're like, I actually own it. And the car is still sitting right there.
Correct.
Even the student loan, you pay off your student loans. You already had graduation. Your degree is already on the wall. That's partly why people be like, man, I don't need to pay you. I already got my degree. I don't need. Or it's either that, or they looking at, well, shoot, you can have this back. I just need it to put on my resume. I mean, because depending on what career you're in, they not going to be checking transcripts like that. But no, it doesn't have the same effect when you pay it off because, yeah, if you just paid $200,000 off over 5 years, you'd be like, all right, cool. I did all that, but I'm at zero. Mm-hmm. I did all that just to get even. Yeah. Like, I don't have no money. I just don't have no debt. So that's very interesting because that's what it's going to take. It's going to be a gut punch, whatever you do, because as you get further into the road, you're right. You do engage with it. And it does come a point where you be like, man, I'm going to rip the Band-Aid off and do it. But no matter what, it's $1,000, $3,000 or whatever, because in your mind, when you're paying, you're like, dog, just get it over with. Just get it over with. But after the fact, when the dust settles, you be like, dang, what if something happens before we get it? Yeah. You want to sit still for 2-3 weeks and you're like, let me see. So no, it's important that you do that. So you guys may mention being out of debt and you guys want to start some business. What are the type of businesses that you're working on now? You mentioned that you have some real estate and you're investing in real estate, which would definitely in the new year, we're going to have you guys come back and talk about your real estate journey. But what are some of the things you're working on now?
So I do event planning. So I specialize in weddings. So I do that, and he hosts his weddings for me as well. So I'll hire him, other MCs that I know, but maybe
you heard that?
I hire him to MC weddings when they need an MC or a host. So that's what I focus on. Also, during the fall season, I coach high school volleyball. So that's also what I do.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So basically, I think I was sharing with you backstage is we run 3 businesses now. So through her event planning company, with her focus on weddings, right? So those couples that we work with, if they have any real estate needs or whatnot, I'm a licensed realtor. Mm-hmm. So I can help them with that process, but I also do some investing on the side as well, in terms of like our properties that we manage. And then professionally, I do financial services. So one of the things that I wanted to make sure that I put great emphasis on is prior to me actually starting in the field and starting in that industry, I wanted to make sure that I practice what I preach.
Absolutely.
And I think a lot of times people can either feel it or smell it on you and they're like, what do you know? But then if you're able to say, hey, this is what I've been able to do, I have found great success in that because people want to know what your story is. 9 times out of 10, people are buying you instead of the product. So
the money, because they can go get anything. But like we're not like, and I can speak to that. When it comes to money, you can do your deal with anybody.
Correct.
It could be about the same. I know realtor is some places charge different fees and that type of stuff. Financial services, investments, coaching, all that. It's all the same stuff.
Correct.
Like, it's do you want this bag of sugar or that bag of sugar? You know what I mean? It's still sugar.
Right.
Is what you're getting. Is that person able to get you the knowledge and information that you need? That's so good. And kudos to you guys for actually how you're venturing off, how you're going from your ambition. But then also speak a little bit to, because what you described is very, from what I know in the market, is very lucrative career. But if you could spend just a little bit of time expressing like, hey, I went down this career path, but it wasn't necessarily, if it was easy, I'm sorry, go ahead and say that. But I know if you're in financial services, I know if you realtor, I know for a fact you had to take exams, you had to, study. It took some work. So just talking about those processes to get to that and the level of commitment you have to do that, or talking through things you have to do to get yourself to that point.
Absolutely. So in terms of the real estate piece, one of the main reason why I wanted to get my license is because you can read tons of books. And if you read anything about the millionaires and the billionaires, they have some form of real estate in their portfolio. So right off bat, I was like, you know what?
Hold up. You went too fast. Say that one more time. Go right back.
So if you follow some of the billionaires and the millionaires, 9 times out of 10, all of them have some form of real estate investing in their portfolio. So for me, I'm like, man, if I can get the license and at least know the verbiage, know how to type up a contract, have access to the MLS so that way I can see what properties are out there. To me, that will be good enough for me. Not so much thinking about like, hey, going out there and selling 30 homes or 40 homes. Not so much thinking about that, but thinking about me getting the license and having access. Because sometimes you just need to get in the door, right? So while you get in the door, you don't know who you're going to meet inside of that space. So got that. And then also realizing that what you understand, another person is probably struggling to understand. So I was like, oh yeah, I just got my license and, passed it and I was good. But then quickly realizing that there's a lot of individuals that need this type of assistance, even in the preliminary stage, right? Like them wanting to purchase a home. What's the basics? Like I post videos on social media just to kind of like help people with that, whether they use me or not. It's just information that I think is valuable, right? Mm-hmm. And in terms of the financial services, as a financial professional, been doing that for about 2 years. And when I got into that field, of course, I had to get licensed, because when you're dealing with people's money, you better hope you know a thing or two. You don't want to mess up people's hard earned just because
you may suck, but they gonna be like, hey, we know he knows something. Yeah, he just might not be good, but we know he knows about the product.
Exactly. So of course I had to get licensed. Now I'm licensed in Texas, licensed in Georgia, North Carolina as well, because we have some family members there, in New York as well. But we're able to get licensed in all 50 states if need be. And some of the services that we're able to provide, retirement planning. What does that even mean? The average person think, hey, they go to their job and whatever their job gives them, that's how they're going to move forward. I mean, let's be honest. If you're running a business, who would you say is your priority? Your immediate family or your employees?
Exactly.
Probably your immediate family. So they're probably not giving you the best thing out there. So that's why you got to sit down with someone like myself or whoever you come across and at least get the information, so that way you can know what else is out there. Literally, those looking at me.
To that, understand you're not going to be able to get it from your employer. The HR, all that, I promise you, they don't even know they offer a Roth 401k. They don't even know what investments are in their portfolio. They say, hey, we give comprehensive benefits because they train and they do a thing. They can't talk to you about your health benefits. And Lord, if you can get a tutorial on what's really in your health benefits, you need to understand the brass tack of what you're paying for. But especially when it comes to your investments, you're not going to be able to get that type of one-on-one help. So you got to have somebody who can be able to look at what you have and regurgitate it to you in terms and ways that you understand. And that's where your financial coach, financial professional comes in handy. And I know there's a little bit of a shameless plug, but it's one of those things that if they did that, we wouldn't be doing this conversation. If they could do that, if you go to your job and somebody explain it to you, we wouldn't be having this conversation at all. No. So it's important that you understand that, you need somebody in your corner to regurgitate to you. But just even if all you got is your 401k, you still need a FA in behind you just to help make sure you know what your investments are doing, because it's your money. If you're placing a bet, what are you placing your bet on? You need to know what your money is in. You can't know what it's going to do specifically, but you need to have an idea of how it works so that you can be like, okay, this is way, but he did tell me if something like this occurs, this is why my account didn't go down as low as somebody else's account. The way I'm invested, does it really matter right now? No, because I'm not pulling out. Okay, so we keep going, but that's just interesting to know. But at least that's better than all these people in March when the stock market went down 30,000 points, went down 30,000 points, and now they're like, oh, what happened to all my money? Oh man, you know what I'm saying? Where is that? I mean, I've never seen so many people on social media say, I'm pulling out. I'm like, oh, you still work for the job. Like, how are you pulling out? But they are pulling out, they upset, and you're upset mostly because you don't know what your money is in.
Correct.
The knowledge.
Correct.
knowledge.
Correct. Like even some, and I'll share this. Even like my mom, and she's been working at her job since like 2004. So I'm not in the industry. So I'm like, okay, well, let me look at what my mama have, because obviously she's not looking at it. And in my family, I'm probably the financial person, right? So I'm looking at her and I'm like, wait, mom, why are you in risky? Like her portfolio is risky. I'm like, mama don't know what risky means.
Yeah. All they care about is, can I get my check on the 15th?
Exactly. So,
they like,
so I'm always looking at ways for people to just put that little thing in their mind. Like you can't just set something and forget it.
Yeah.
Like one of the most
investments. No.
Yeah, like one of the most recent cases that I had, I sat down with an 80-year-old male, 80-year-old. So someone sat down with him back in 1990, Jonathan. Wow. 1990. So I said, okay.
He seen everything with the stock market.
Right. 1990. You know, this guy told me, and again, these are his words. This guy told me that was the last time he sat down with somebody.
Was he still invested with that person?
Since 1990. Yes. And I'm like, did you do any annual reviews? Yeah. Did you look to see if it was performing the way you wanted to perform? Right. He's like, no, the price was right. And stop buying these things based off price.
It's a total different thing. So, I mean, you guys mentioned Chuck Full, and guys, they came on, they're blessing us. I'm going to have them send me their links so that you guys can be able to connect with them. Obviously, if you're in Charlotte, I'm in Charlotte, so North Carolina, I'm licensed in North Carolina, so I definitely support you the best way I can. But if we'll make sure we get you those links to actually connect with them. But just going back or transition to what you were saying about guys, it really does start with your mind. It really does start with what are you intaking, what are you believing, what do you actually know? And the fact is, it's well documented. This is very well documented. We are programmed, we are taught, and we're educated in a certain structure to get a certain result. We're educated to not necessarily be curious. We're educated to know that, hey, I need to go to work. I need to work 9 to 5. I need to do this, and I need to be committed to this job this way. And I need to do that. We're not educated to know investment. Why? Because if you invested, and if people knew, hey, I could hustle from 18 to 30, and then my investments could really just pay my life, you run out of workers that way. So then you don't have control. And this isn't conspiracy theory. This is what's actually happened. There's nothing like the way stuff is set up. We have to understand that what we live in a great country for a few different reasons. We live in a great country because the United States is one of those things where you get to mess up 1,500 times, and you get to redo it all over again. So if you ain't got an 800 now, you maybe got 500. You can get an 800 tomorrow.
Yeah.
Your house got foreclosed on 2 years ago, a year ago. That doesn't mean you'll never be able to buy another house.
That's true.
The country gives you that opportunity to mess up like that. First. Second, we also live in a great country because there's an enormous amount of opportunity for anybody to make a solid income and grow their income. And especially now, because things that we've been talking about, work from home, hey, I can do this job from home. I can do this job from home. Now we're forced. And they're like, hey, you got to do your job from home. Well, I've been telling you this for 10 years. Y'all said I had to come in the office. So it's important that you understand what's the scenario that we're actually living in. And the scenario that we're living in is there's a reason why information is not necessarily given and taught from the ground up. There's also a reason that the tax code is this big mystery and fear thing. Oh, I don't need the IRS calling me. Well, if you have the proper documentation and if you understand how the rules are interpreted, you didn't do anything wrong. You just had the document. And
right.
that's what you tell them. Hey, I documented to your standards. Everybody has to do an audit. It really doesn't matter. So what we're saying in this is your mind, you're taught these rules. And the point of your mind is you have to inject, like you said, you have to inject these podcasts. You have to inject this financial
reprogram.
Yeah, program. You got to reprogram your mind so that your mind can start seeing the opportunity for your investing. So your mind can start believing and helping you understand that, hey, I can go do this. But you have to reprogram. A person who was drunk or a person who was on drugs, they have to reprogram how they deal with problems, not just stop drinking.
Yeah.
The drinking was just an accessory to the problem, but you have to reprogram yourself. And it's very important that, like you said, we understand this mind. We keep the conversation going. We do all this and we give it. The whole point is for you to understand you can be wealthy. And it's really funny. It's not like you're being wealthy in a poverty country. You're being wealthy in one of the wealthiest countries on it. That's what we know how to do.
And can I add something to that? So and hopefully the individuals that are watching this will catch this. So when we talk about, like, what kind of income am I making? What kind of income do I have coming in? So there's like three that I always want to make sure that people focus on, or at least know that is out there. Right. We can agree that probably 90 to 90% of people, they have what's called active income. So they have to actively be doing something. So if they're a real estate agent, if you don't sell a house, you don't get paid. Yeah. If you don't go to work, you don't get paid. So that's active income, where it requires your time to actually physically go there to actually make that income. Right. And there's passive income. So what do we mean by passive income? A lot of individuals are talking, real estate investing. So you purchase a property and guess what? Every month that property is making you money. So you took your money, you purchased whichever property or you invested, and then every month that's giving you money. And then the third one is portfolio income. So now let's think about what that means. So do you have any stocks? Do you have any life insurance plans? Do you have so many different options out there? So now you got to ask yourself, out of those three, do I have all three?
Yeah.
Or do I have one out of the three? Do I have two out of the three? That's what you got to think about. And sometimes I think people try to jump to three.
Yeah.
I have stocks. Dude, you have $40 in your bank account. Like I need you to here and be focused on what you need to be doing. So when you think about those three things, and hey, what happens when a family leaves something behind for the last generation? Guess what? They're starting out with portfolio income.
Exactly.
Right. So now they can kind of like work backwards, where we're working forward, going from active, passive to portfolio. Right. So these are the conversations that I always like having with people. And to be honest with you, Jonathan, and I'm pretty sure you know this too, just based off what it is that you do here. Sometimes we have this conversation with our colleagues, with our peers, and they're looking at us like we're crazy.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is just the fact. I mean, do you want books? Do you want videos? Do you what type of resources you need in order for you to see this is not me making this up? By the way, if I'm making this up, damn, I'm smart.
Yeah. I got a lot more for you if I make it look like this. Like I couldn't get no more transparent. You're right though. You know what I mean? Just like you said, there's 3 ways to make income. Like I tell people, it's 3 ways to invest your money. You got a business, you got real estate, and you got the investment, stocks, all that type of stuff. There's only 3. You know what I mean? Now in each one of those, you can play around with what you're doing with it. But when you're going into McDonald's, you got 1 through 12. Pick what number you want and stick with it. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
That's what the investment does. It doesn't matter which way you go, what road you go down. Yeah, with investments, you want to make sure you're on the right track. What are you willing to commit? How do you want to work? And you understand it. With real estate, do you want 1 or 2 properties? Do you want to be churning and burning and buying and selling, flipping?
Yeah.
Do you want the portfolio of, maybe you stay in one half or whatever. The fact is, like you said, the successful people, they don't just diversify their investments, meaning they have stocks and bonds. They diversify the entire picture. And that's why diversification is not just a stock bond thing. You need to diversify your stock and bonds. You need to diversify in your real estate. So you got a house, but maybe you also got a rental. You diversify that income. Your business, you need to diversify the way you make cash in your business. You don't just have one main thing, you have accessories to that add to the business. And then you personally need to diversify your income. You will not make it only doing one income. I mean, you can. These people, but your life and the life that you want to live, this best life, everybody that doesn't happen on one income.
No,
that you take that off. And one thing I will say for millennial generation, a lot of you guys going up to 39, 40, what have you, we are not shy of hard work. We're just not. The problem is you're putting all your hard work into one, or even if you got a couple jobs, maybe you got that, maybe you diversified your income, but you're not utilizing your income in the correct direction so that your income can make income and work with you.
Correct.
In every scenario of the investing, you always have to start where you don't necessarily see the return.
Correct.
The return, like this year, the S&P 500, I was looking at mine yesterday. I think I peeked in there for something because I was looking for something for the upcoming baby. But I was looking, and the S&P 500, despite what's going on, that S&P 500 this year has done 13%. So despite everything that's going on, my constantly been up. It's 13% of whatever the balance is.
Yeah.
The more you go, it'll outpace you. It's just not going to outpace you tomorrow.
Right.
That's deferred gratification. So you got diversification and you got deferred gratification. Deferred gratification is no one gets in business with the idea that the business is going to fail. You get in business because you're like, okay, yeah, I'm going to go hard for about 2 years. And as I see this income pick up, that's going to allow me space to, I can come back from my job and I can shift over. Or it can buy me out my job. Or I can take this income and now I can really propel my stock market investing. Or I can, I have a plan where it's a 5-year plan. We're going to get this piece of the business income up, and then we're going to take that money and invest in another piece of the business so we can get a couple different streams going. And then we're going to take that and go throw it in the stock market to try to stabilize. But in all these scenarios you're not diversified because you got stocks and bonds. You're diversified. That is for that scenario. But you're diversified because you got stocks, you got bonds. Hey, I got a house I'm going to pay off. I got maybe one property, maybe 2 properties, whatever, over this span of time. Hey, I even got some business to help with the cash flow. All these things, and they all work together for the great mighty tax code that we need to try to avoid. Because when you get, like I tell people, you can get out of debt, but you can't get out of taxes. Like, that's coming. That's not going away. You might have a good year and all that type of stuff, but taxes is not a debt that you get to avoid. That's going to be your main bill. Even if you own your house, guess what you still got to pay? In most states, you got to pay a property tax.
Yep.
You got to when you buy a car cash, you still have to pay a sales tax. You still buy, even when I'm just saying, no matter what you're doing, it's not going away. They saying thank you for being in America, but we need ours a little bit off the top. So it's important that you understand how to do this. And then once you get to that point, you need FA. You need somebody that's going to help you with your investing so that you can focus on what you do great. You need the accountant in your corner that you can trust, that you're like, okay, my investment guy is making me money. My accountant is helping me operate the money so I can have more money to invest.
Right.
You need that. You kind of have it. You need your investment guy. So you got your health, your life, all these different things all wrapped up so you're protected, because once you do make money and once you might not even be driving an Audi or Lexus or even nothing that's drawing. But if you have a little bit of money, and you get in an accident, somebody can come for you for that.
That's true. That's
If
true.
they really get to know, because people post all their business on social media. Well, I know you paid off that 3 years ago. And I see you got a business, and that business look like it's doing pretty well. So even though your car barely made it past the light, but because you hit me, I'm gonna go ahead and retire on this one.
Yep.
So you gotta protect your money with it. So it's mind-boggling. I had to go through that a little bit. I do apologize. I appreciate everybody that stuck with me, but it's very important that you understand you diversify your income and you always try to grow it. You diversify your investments because you're always trying to grow it. You diversify your real estate, your business, you diversify it all, and you continually do it. It's like you said, you don't set it and forget it, because you do real estate. So I like to tell people, well, if you set it and forget it, what if you bought a rental property and it was $100,000 property, you made 10 grand in a year, that's a 10% return. And it's a paid for property, you know what I mean? So you're doing well. But what if your rent goes up to $1,500 the next year, but the value goes up to $200? So at what point does this continue being a good investment? Because you're not $1,500 on $200,000 isn't 10%. You actually pay less of a return.
Yeah.
So you could have sold that property, bought another 100, and took the 100 and went invested that in something else. It's an active game. And it's not really a game, it's a strategy. Like, you're paying attention, what's going to get me the most money? And if I set it and forget it, then what happens is you might have a 401k at 60, 65, 70 with maybe 500,000 in it. Your house still ain't paid for.
Yep.
You might get a little taste of Social Security only because that's based off your pay. So if you never made over $100,000 a year, don't be expecting $2,300 a month in Social Security.
Nope.
More like $700-800 a month. And last time I checked, there's nobody that's living a life on $700-800 one time. Like, one time. You're gonna continue working. So it's important that you understand that this is an active thing, and active thing, you can't just let it pass by like we do our health. Your financial health is just like your regular health. You have to go in, like you said, with your investment, whoever you do your investment with, you need to be checking in. Yeah. Like, it's a business thing. And if they're not calling you, you might need to send them a written notice saying your services are no longer needed. So
no, for real. No, people really need to do that, because it's your money.
Yeah.
And one of
the things, you own them.
Exactly. They are working for you. Okay. So don't be like, oh, I'm shy, or I don't want to call them, I don't want to bother them. No, it's your hard-earned money that you are investing. So make sure whether you sat down with them 5 years ago, 3 years ago, this is the last thing that I'll say. Make sure you get in contact with those individuals and get an update. Maybe there's a better product out there.
Yeah.
Right. From the one that you got 5 years ago, and you can upgrade to the newer product. Why not? So, and guess what? That person would love that. And if they don't pick up, then that's when you make a decision on whatever it is that you need to do. Because at the end of the day, it's your hard earned.
And I'll say one more piece just to kind of help nail y'all guys in if you haven't already. The 401k started coming out in the end of the 1980s. A lot of people didn't know about the 401k. A lot of companies didn't do it. The 401k became a center vehicle for building wealth and growing people's money as more companies picked up by the 90s, late into the 90s. We're now into the 2000s, and one of the things that quickly picked up steam, the Roth 401k. But a lot of these millionaires, if they just set it and forget it, like your gentleman, you just set it and forget it, and you didn't know, oh man, I can ladder some of this money so I don't have so much in pre-tax. I can transfer. Maybe I had a low income year. I can that'll be a good time to move some money from my traditional to my Roth. But this Roth 401k, now you have a larger bandwidth that you can build, because a lot of millionaires that's right now, a lot of their money is in pre-tax, about 60 to 70% of them. But I mean, the product wasn't there. But to your point, new things evolve all the time. So it's not like people are just trying to get you for life, but it's up to you because ain't nobody knocking down your door saying, hey, man, you got a regular 401k. You need to do this
Correct.
time.
Correct.
No, it's up for you for the checkup. And that's all we're saying. Just check in. If you can check in and look at it, you can get a switch. Or if you're just now starting, start right. Because think about it. When you leave that 401k, if it was a Roth, when you leave it to your kids, forever, they're living off interest.
Mm-hmm.
Not only are they living off interest, you didn't pass them down $2-3 million portfolio. They'll pull off maybe 4 to 6%, whatever, 60 grand, or actually 120 if it's $2 million. That's tax free forever. And then the money keep growing. It's come on, man.
That's a whole other conversation, right?
That's what when we're talking about legacy, it's they need to work and they need to do all that. But we're talking about they never have to worry about even if it's just that one account. They never have to worry about taxes or anything. Hey, I want to buy a car. Look, tax free. You don't have to worry about whether or not you want to trust them with that. But they don't have to worry about. You just made things a lot easier for yourself because you get to enjoy it. But you built it so that you can pass it down because you're gonna die. We're all gonna die. We know this. But when we die, somebody got to get the money.
Correct.
Documentation with that as well. The wills and the trusts and all that good stuff.
We need all that because, like, you don't want to. Like the Black Panther wife just went through. You don't want your wife or anybody having to go to probate and then a crazy cousin pop up and be like, yeah, that was actually left to me. Because that can happen in a probate scenario. All it takes is one person. Are we cousins? Oh, let me go sign this paper. Pay $20 to become the probate person, and now you just came up. So it's important that we get this. It's a lot to it. And are you up for the challenge? Is this something? Do you really want this life?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Do you really? If you don't, that's cool. But like I said, in every scenario, in every video, and I'm gonna keep saying, you're gonna have challenges, and life is not gonna get easier the older we get. So which challenges you want? I guarantee you, I prefer my challenges, my problems now than 5, 6, 7 years ago.
Correct.
On the outside, it could look like a lot. It could look like a lot, but I'm like, I don't have a problem with not being able to pay a bill or wondering what's going on. I don't have that problem. I might have a problem that I might need to pay attention to something. I might have a problem that, like I'm busy. And so, scheduling stuff, but I got time. I'm growing my money. I don't want to have that problem of, man, I got a $500, $600 car repair and I can't get it done. Or I'm married and not only am I okay not eating today, but I'm not okay being married and my wife don't know what we doing. And then you had a nerve to bring a kid into this scenario, and like I know it sounds bad, but I'm like the kid be like, hey, I ain't even signed up for this. So they like, why couldn't we go down there?
I'm trying to go back.
Right. Like, can you go back? So, but no, I mean, I say it in jest, but the fact is, like, you're gonna have problems. Choose your heart, choose your problems. Understand, the rules aren't correct. The rule, like, there is odds stacked against each and every one of us. Mm-hmm. He went and did his test. He got and paid off his debt. Him and his wife got on the same page. Maybe you and your wife won't get on the same page today. But if you start the conversation, you will get there. And it's all, you just have to go in the same direction, use each other's strengths. So good. You guys are just
so great. And listen, I have to say something based on what you just said right there, because I hear it too often. And especially shout out to the ladies. I know y'all do so much. Y'all love on us. Y'all provide like listen, shout out to the ladies. One of the things that I must say that I come across is, well, my husband, he doesn't listen. He doesn't whatever. Here's a trick. You have to get a different messenger.
Yeah.
Not you.
Yeah.
Not you. Because obviously you've been trying to do it and he hasn't been listening. You have to get him in front of somebody else, a third party. Okay. that
give him some grace when he say, "Hey, did you know?"
right, right. You have to bring a third party in, because that normally makes that conversation so much easier. I would tell some of my friends, like, hey, bring this up to her. Right. So that way she hears it from somebody else. She doesn't hear it from me. Because, we can become, this is called parent death, but death or wife death, where we're like, yeah, whatever. I said the same thing. Yeah, but it came from you, and you
just it's so clear. I'm like,
right?
2 years. No, so good. So how would you guys, like I said, they're gonna show the links, and if you stuck with us this far, I definitely appreciate you. I know, it's the middle of the day. You guys have so much else to do. Listen to your car. You got kids that's probably got climbing the wall for virtual learning, and you ready for it to be Saturday when tomorrow's only Friday. So we're going to get you those links. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel, like on YouTube. We definitely appreciate you. If you're part of the group, go ahead and invite your friends, invite your family. It's all about getting the information in front of them so they can start assessing, and they don't know. I guarantee you, if you said anything that we said today, or you say anything in the group, I guarantee you, they'll be like, man, I didn't know that. They can probably question it, but because you're telling them, they'll probably listen, but they didn't know. Because there's nobody who would know better and understand better and still do the same thing that they're doing now. There's nobody that's going to do that. So they didn't know, they didn't understand, and that's why it's not happening. So you can help them do that. I want you guys, before we click them off and kind of chop it up a little bit, I want you guys to kind of encourage that person, whether they're married, whether they're single, they want to start their debt journey, they're in their debt journey, maybe they want to start investing, but they just kind of speak some encouragement to them. I always ask all my guests to do that, because like you said, when you're posting these things, you never know where a person is, and ask people who have done it. Like, you're experts, you guys have worked it out, you guys have opened the lines of communication to your marriage to where you can discuss this beast. Share some things that you would tell them that you would either maybe even do differently, or just to encourage them along that journey to keep going or start.
Gotcha. You want to?
Yeah, I would start with to encourage them. I would say write it down and make it plain, and really list it out so you can see it, you can visualize it. It's tangible. I think a lot of times we go about our days, and I see, friends that I have as well that are single who want to tackle this debt-free journey, and they feel like, oh, I have to do this all by myself. It feels lonely or single. I have to do this myself. But I'd rather you start with yourself. So when you get with that person that you're going to get with, if y'all start off at zero together, even better. So just write it down, make it plain, and just start paying attention to those things. Like, those brunches add up. Those coffee trips add up. Those going to the Marshalls every weekend, those add up. Just start being very intentional of how your spending habits, so you can learn how to save those things and put it towards your debt. I think a lot of times as females too, we just swipe. Sometimes some of us just swiping. We just keep swiping. We just keep swiping. And we don't think about it sometimes, because you're like, okay, I'm going to get that paycheck on Friday. It'll pay off. But really be intentional about what your spending habits are, writing it down, whether you're a physical journal person or your iPhone, put in the notepad, see it, use the apps that are accessible to us. There's different apps that you can use to track how much you're using towards your, food, groceries and whatnot. So I would say start by writing it down, because once you write it down and it's tangible, you can see it, you'll do it. You'll focus on this, because what you focus on is what you'll get. So if you don't focus on it, you're just going to go day to day and go about your everyday life. That's what would be my encouragement.
For me, I would say you just have to get to the point where you're sick and tired of being sick and tired. And what do I mean by that? Because you could be on this channel here and you're hearing our story. Hopefully you find some value with what we're sharing here. But you just got to get to the point where you're sick and tired of being sick and tired. And think about where you see yourself, where you see your partner, where you see, like, in the future, what are some of the things that you would want to do? And literally, and I said this before and I'll say it again, having debt or carrying around baggage is literally like trying to run forward full speed while looking backwards. I hope you guys just visualize that. So start getting, if this is something that you want to do, getting out of debt or minimizing your debt as well, by the way, because I think the hardest part is to actually start.
Mhm.
So think about running a marathon, right? Like what do you have to do prior to actually running a marathon? You have to train, you have to get your mind right, you have to change your diet, you have to do all these things before you even start that actual race. So those are some of the things that I would say for that individual that's thinking, I'm like, man, can I do it? I'm not making enough money, or whatever the case may be. And we're people of faith, and you just have to accept that challenge, and the man above is going to provide.
Mhm.
Like, he is going to provide. He is going to throw people your way that's going to propose new ideas, that's going to do, like, that's going to share with you how you could be making more money, or whatever the case may be. And those are the things that I think we have to do. Podcasts, I can't stress this enough. Reading books, watching YouTube videos, like, all of these things are at your disposal. Like, almost everybody has a smartphone, right? So literally taking advantage of that. And even if you watch a video a day, if you watch an interview a day, I guarantee you that's going to compound into something greater. And you're going to look back a year from now, 2 years from now, you're going to be like, man, okay, I was at 100,000. Now I'm at 75. That's progress, right? That's progress. So one step at a time. Get around a community, right? Get around a community that's doing something similar. The best way you can do that is leveraging social media, following the debt-free pages, following the wealth pages that's always talking about individuals who are going out of debt. That helped us tremendously.
And letting your friends and family know that you're going through this journey, so they're not asking you to go on trips. They're not asking you to go to brunch. They're not asking you to do these things, because they know what your goal is and where you're trying to get to.
Yep. You know how when you get married, and the guys can attest to this, when you get married and you don't want to do something, you said, man, you know my wife. Man, you know my wife, right?
I'm like, look, I don't want to go because I don't want to go.
It's the same thing with this. So if you let them know that, hey, you're on a debt-free journey, they trying to invite you to the movies, they trying to invite you to take this trip, man, you know I got this debt-free journey. You know, I got this debt-free journey. So that way you're not going to be spending as much money, because as you start following and tracking your spending, you would be surprised what you're spending money on. Yeah. You know, $90 here, $80 here, $120 there. Like, all of those things add up. So again, I wish our story, we shared enough to the point where at least you got something where it's going to register in your mind, where it's like, man, I'm glad I'm doing this, or I should be doing that. And I'm pretty sure, Jonathan will share our contact information. Feel free to reach out, like, hit us up on social media or whatever. We can have a conversation and answer any possible questions that you all may have.
So good. We definitely gonna again, I'm gonna share the info. If you're on YouTube, it's gonna be down in the description below. Maybe check that out. But again, all of this, like, we have a plan. I have a plan. They got a plan. So we're good. You know what I mean? The point is, we really want you to have a plan and really want you to win with your money. And you're right. Get around, let your family know, let your friends know. But I guarantee you, as soon as you tell them you're getting out of debt, now they're looking at you a little bit different, because the next question is going to be, are they going to actually do it?
Correct.
And when you do it, then it's going to make it real. Like, you don't have no debt, like none. Like, you don't have a car note, you don't have no credit card, and you got some savings. What's savings? You know what I mean? So, like, what's that like? You know what I mean? I was out with my brothers yesterday, and one thing they noticed is that a lot of times me and my wife, when we go out to restaurants and stuff, we'll pay in cash. And I'm like, they was like, aren't you gonna get the points? I'm like, nah, I'm not really too worried about the points for that. When I pay for a vacation, I pay for the vacation. I get you, but I'm like, I'm not gonna go through all these hoops just to try to add up. I just spent $20,000 to get a plane ticket. I'm like, I'll just pay for the plane ticket. Like, I use credit card for the insurance, for the extended warranties. I'm not really using it for that other stuff. But it's different. And when you're different, they don't question me not working for 7 months. They don't question certain things. They find it interesting because it's not normal. But having money in a country that's wealthy, seemingly, is not necessarily normal. They say the 1%, not the 13, the 20, the 50, or whatever. That means we got to get a lot more people out there, because we can. And what does that do? That just makes the country better. That makes everything a little bit better, because we are sharing resources. and we will be the #1 wealthiest country in the world if all of us are. It takes us being wealthy. But if you want to do that, if you want to engage, I definitely encourage you to speak with him. He's an FA. Like, even if you're not in the state, just to get transparency on it, like, you probably that can be helpful. If you're in Charlotte, or I think you guys are in Charlotte, right?
I'm in Florida, but I have family.
You're in Florida, like, I don't know. I don't know where they.
The power of technology.
So he's at the other house. No, but yeah, definitely connect with him. Maybe you want to get into event planning. Maybe that's a dream of yours. That's a very vibrant thing. People need events. Corporations need events. Families put together reunion. There's so many things that this happens. So understanding is so good. It's so important. I appreciate you guys coming on. But yeah, if you have any questions, as always, hit my inbox. I haven't forgot about you guys. I still got gifts or a gift ish coming through the group this month because it is generosity. We want to get ready for the spirit, and we want to try to impact some more lives. But until next time, you guys, we will talk to you soon.